Hello, friends and RC family. My name's Alec from High Noon Hobby. Thank you for checking back in for part 2, which I said was going to be the last part of this series of my first scale event. But I lied because I just edited all the video that I had left from this event, and it ended up being about 19 minutes long. And given the fact that my average view duration is somewhere in the range of 4 minutes, I'm going to say that you guys would probably prefer that I break this into smaller pieces. And I'm not going to do that, or at least not as small as you would like, but I am going to break it into 2 more parts. So, let's get right into part 2 of the 3-part series of my first scale adventures with 801 RCC, a group here in Salt Lake City. And this event in particular was the West Desert Waltz. It was an event in October, which is getting towards the end of the crawling season here in Utah just because of snow. We do actually have all 4 seasons, unfortunately, although there are some places that we can escape the seasons, and we have been doing that over the last few weeks, so we do have more crawling content coming. So don't forget, if you like what you're seeing here, go ahead and give us a subscribe for more content in the future. But let's hop right into this video. I figured that I would do a little bit of a spin on this video since I kind of just gave you guys straight commentary last time. I figured I'd see if you guys enjoyed me kind of giving you my thoughts on how my Traxxas TRX4 Bronco XLT performed in this event. And I'll just caveat that right out of the gates by saying that gate 67 right there, guys. We're making progress in 68. But right out of the gate, I'm going to preface that by saying that I think one of the biggest things when it comes to being able to nail lines with any truck is experience with that particular truck, and then just experience driving overall. I think that is what I've observed in both in this event that I went to and in all of the events that I've gone to since then. I feel as though I've noticed that those with the most experience with those rigs and those with the most experience and that were the most confident in picking where their tires should go, both the front axle and the rear axle, and being able to tell the truck how to do that, those people succeeded the most. And so regardless of what truck they were in, whether it was an experienced driver in a Trailfinder 2 or whether it was an experienced driver in a G-Speed low center of gravity chassis, the most impressive drivers that I've seen have not necessarily been in any one particular truck. They've just been impressive drivers. So that's my caveat. That's how I'm going to start this out. But I did want to give my thoughts on how the TRX4 performs in a scenario like this where you've got a lot of verticality, you've got a lot of nasty lines, and like I mentioned in the last video, even though this isn't exactly a scale competition or a competition per se, it can be. A lot of these lines are very competitive, very technical lines, and people do go out to this area and perform real competitions where they're caring a little bit more about how quickly you get through the course. This particular event and the events that 801 RCC usually puts on are a little bit more relaxed. It's more just about everyone meeting up and having a good time and going through all the gates, figuring out one way or another to do it, whether or not it's pretty or whether or not it's fast. Doesn't matter as much as whether or not you have a good time. So, all that being said, I still think that I've gained some insights as to how the TRX4 performs, and I'd like to give you some of those insights. So overall, I would say the TRX4 performed incredibly well. I met one other person who had a out-of-the-box box stock TRX4, and they were less impressed with the performance of their TRX4 than I was of mine that had a few modifications. That being said, I still think that their TRX4 did surprisingly well, especially for being box stock. But I would say it does make sense that they didn't enjoy themselves as much as me, especially because the TRX4 is more of a trail running oriented truck. So if you're trying to do really technical lines or incredibly vertical climbs, you're probably going to want to at least put a little bit of weight in the right places, which on a TRX4 is going to be really low and really forward if you're doing vertical lines. So you're going to probably want to do a front diff cover with brass, and something on those portals with brass, whether it be outers, inners, C-hubs. I personally, on this TRX4, did pretty much all brass in the front. As much brass as you can put in the front, I put in the front, which may have been too much. I think that it hindered my side hilling ability, and I think that there were times where it was just a little bit too much weight in the wrong place. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with that setup. I still have it set up that way, and as I've become a better driver, I've just kind of, I don't know if I've dealt with that, even though it's not as good as it could be, or if I've become accustomed to what that weight feels like and it actually should be there. Not 100% certain, but overall, I would say maybe too much brass in the front for me, but you will want some if you're doing some of these vertical technical lines. The next thing that I would say wasn't great with that guy's box stock TRX4 were the tires and the rims, although I think they could be good, and I've heard good things about those canyon trails, I believe they are, especially if you cut the lugs on them. And once you scuff them in a little bit and get them working, those canyon trails, I've actually seen, even without cutting the lugs, do some really impressive lines. So I wouldn't necessarily say that the tires are the worst on the TRX4 out of the box, but they definitely can be improved upon. The Hyrax Predator or Hyrax G8, the Proline Hyrax G8 compound is what I'm running here, and it really impressed me. These tires were absolutely phenomenal, and the SSD beadlock rims that I had on them, or had them on, were also pretty good. I think they added just the right amount of weight without adding too much weight, and the only thing that I might ask for in a wheel would be being a little bit wider than the SSDs. The SSDs did seem really thin, so once I did end up packing those with foam, that was a little bit of an issue. In terms of here, this is the stock foam, and like I mentioned, that stock foam just wasn't super impressive on these Pro lines, so you know, that is another thing to consider. So the biggest hindrance for me, and in almost every one of these shots you're going to see it, was the bumpers, both front and rear. I'm running I believe it's a GPM, or it might just be an unbranded front bumper that is a front plate steel winch bumper style, and it is just, it's massive. And on the Bronco XLT body, it doesn't really accommodate for pulling the bumpers in a ton, so you have to run that bumper pretty far out unless you want to do some pretty serious cutting of your body. And that was definitely my biggest hindrance, was having to run that bumper so far out away from my body, and it just hit everything, especially with the little stinger that's coming off of it. And that being said, I did use the winch a couple of times. You'll see me using the winch if you check into the next video. That's how I'm going to finish that one off. But we are rolling on to, almost 8.5 minutes here. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and drop any questions or comments you have down below. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. And like I said before, if you enjoy what's coming from High Noon Hobby, go ahead and subscribe for more content just like this. We're going to be doing 2 videos every single week of 2022. I missed last week though, so starting this week, I'm really gonna try to do 2 videos. So I got you. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.